the video. My name is Amber, I am an artist, and today I'm just going to be drawing some birds, in particular woodpeckers, maybe a few other things. In my sketchbook, while I talk about the kind of one thing that really changed my art sketchbook drawing practice. Disclaimer, I am not giving you art fundamentals or how to improve technical skills tips in this video. This is about improving your art by taking down some of the barriers or holdups we have as artists, particularly when we are feeling insecure or lacking in our skills. This is just like my personal experience with how I kind of improved my sketchbook practice and started making more art. All my tips kind of are the same, or come back to the same idea, and that is honestly just practice. Lots. I don't necessarily mean like studying or following a how-to guide, but just drawing and sketching more. I've talked about it before, especially if you want your style to be more loose and flexible in your sketchbook, then yeah, you have to practice doing that. You can't be loose if you don't force yourself to kind of be loose. If you're always worried about things looking right or good or beautiful, you're not gonna be able to loosen up and have fun in your sketchbook. The easiest way to do this, to practice more and to not be stuck in like study mode or correct mode, is to not do an undersketch. This is maybe non-traditional advice. I don't even know. I don't know anymore. The art world is full of people giving you advice, and I know I'm doing the same thing, but I'm hoping that this might help you if you've tried other stuff. And I don't advise this for everything and every scenario, but if you are looking to loosen up and be more free, just don't plan things out as much. I think it's just good practice in general to go straight in with the pen or marker so you can't erase your work. You know, it forces you to commit to the marks you're making and to problem solve as you go. This is particularly good for those of you who maybe started or focus on mainly digital drawing. It's very easy to use the undo or the back function as a crutch when it comes to drawing. You need to kind of unlearn that behavior, and if you're used to being able to easily correct your mistakes, you know, you lose out on that intuition. It's not going to result in your best drawings ever per se if you don't plan things out, but it will eventually improve your drawing skills. This was like the biggest thing I did for myself, and I'm gonna say it worked for me because I hate the messiness of pencil most of the time anyways. I do like drawing in pencil, but the mess just drives me absolutely bananas. B, I like to work quickly as well. I don't really like to plan things out too much. If I'm planning something and I'm spending time, I'm not going to do that in my sketchbook. I'm not going to do that when I want to get, you know, time on the paper. That's when you're planning out, you're not really producing as much, you're not reacting as much, you're not problem solving as much. It's really much more kind of just like executing a plan. And yeah, see, I found that doing a sketch or underdrawing in my sketchbook often felt way too refined and purposeful. Kind of going back to my point, I felt like I was setting myself up to do a complete work or a piece, and so I lost that sense of freedom and play that your sketchbook is often intended to be. I was worried about aspects of drawing that I didn't want to be thinking about in my sketchbook, like proportions and anatomy, and while those things are important, it can also be a deterrent if you're always thinking about something or doing something right. Sometimes you need to kind of change your brain's response and desire to do things correctly so that you can just do more or actually practice instead of like overthink everything. And I honestly think it's true that it is better to practice than to practice perfectly, because that idea of perfect or right is going to slow you down. I know this maybe sounds counterproductive to some people, like why would you practice doing something wrong? But there isn't really a wrongness with drawing and mark making. I know some people will tell you the opposite, but if you find that their advice of doing studies and practicing specific things and anatomy isn't working for you, I'm willing to bet it's because you're being held back by a standard that you're creating for yourself. I can genuinely say that just drawing more frequently and not focusing on technical skills improved my drawing practice drastically. I used to just not even draw all that much. I had barely done a few pages in my sketchbook over like many months. And again, I'm not saying this is concrete advice to follow for the rest of your life, but if you are in a rut, then this might be what works for you. And I personally just found that the best way to do that and to practice more and draw more, just use a pen or a marker or something you can't erase and just draw. Like, just draw. Do not put your brain in the results-oriented mindset. Do not think about the outcome. Practice. Just play around in your sketchbook. If that means that you're just making marks and scribbling and experimenting with materials, so be it. But you need to just kind of get out of that results-oriented mindset, like I said. You know, I like to strike a balance between just having fun, but still managing to pay attention to important details, get the impression of things right. I think developing a love and practice for just creating, making, drawing, and even reflecting on your art is the best way to start and improve. For me, you know, I've been drawing all my life, but I haven't always held a consistent art practice. And the thing that kind of rekindled it for me was that I did a 30-day drawing challenge. No tutorials, no how-tos, no nothing. Me, my sketchbook, and a commitment when I knew I had the time to commit to it, and I ended up going for over 90 days. I stopped when it was no longer working, I listened to my intuition, and I continued my drawing practice with, you know, excitement and joy and a desire to draw more than I had in a very long time. Like, probably since I was a kid. And in doing that, like, my skills improved drastically. I'm not saying I'm like an amazing drawer or that I draw incredibly realistically. I did start to develop my style a lot more, and I discovered what I liked in my drawing and my art making a lot more. For me, that was getting over that barrier of like creating a finished piece or worrying about like the end results or the product. You know, that really held me back from creating more, and if you're not creating more, you are not improving. Like, that is just the reality, is that your time on the paper, your practice, your experience is what is going to ultimately improve your art. So think about the thing that is holding you back from creating more frequently and with, you know, happiness and not, you know, stress, and figure out how to get over that. Like I said before, my suggestion is to reduce the barriers or the things that make it feel like you're working on something that has to be beautiful or, you know, Instagram worthy, or something that's gonna go viral. Like, I just go straight in with the pen. I stopped worrying about, you know, drawing out proportions, you know, thinking about like setting up your drawing correctly. If that just like kind of deters you and it makes you like not want to draw, then don't do it. Just don't do it. That's what it was like for me. I hated this idea of not being able to just draw and like to just do it. Like, you know, when you get the urge, like, I really want to draw, and then you think, ugh, I gotta set up my drawing. Like, nobody wants to do that. I don't know. Maybe this is an analogy that will help or makes more sense. It's like people who run a marathon. They don't just go and run a marathon all of a sudden. I mean, rare exceptions. You know what I'm saying? The average person, you and me, most people in the world, you don't just go out and run a marathon. You start by running for 1 minute straight. Maybe you start with a 5K and then a 10K. When you're a beginner runner, you don't start by studying all the theory of running and the best running form. Maybe some people do, again. But usually that advice is just kind of overwhelming. You're like, oh, what? Like, there's this much that I have to learn to be the best runner ever, when you've not even run a 5K yet. Most of the people that get to the point of running a longer distance just practice running. They just run, and they just do it, and they start to fall in love with running. And then one day, maybe they decide to run a half marathon. If they really are committed to their running practice at that point, then yeah, maybe then they get a coach who can help them progress and optimize their performance for a marathon. But the process of getting there, the beginning, most of it is just running. So in the same way, most of your art practice at the beginning is just making art. You want to improve your drawing, you want to create a freaking masterpiece of a drawing, whatever the pinnacle of peak art is for you, and you want to create that, you don't just make it, and you don't just learn the best technique by studying books and tutorials and how-to, and you get a coach from the beginning to get there. You learn the fundamentals, sure, but most of the way that you get there, most of that time is going to be time spent on the paper, on the page, on the canvas, practicing, learning, getting intuition. The same with running. You know, your body starts to develop a muscle memory. It improves naturally, almost imperceptibly. Like, a lot of those improvements happen in ways that you don't even notice or feel. They are just slowly built up over time. And it is the same with art. It's the same with many things that are skills based, is you just practice over time. I know I sound like a freaking broken record, but I will continue to say it until you accept it, because it is like the one true thing, I believe, at least. It is like the one thing that is true in art, and you cannot escape it. It's just practice. Anywho, I think next week's video is going to be a drawing challenges video, where I'll go over these following ideas in more detail. You can join me in next week's video. It'll be fun to do alongside me. It'll be kind of like a draw with me, but it's going to be like little drawing challenges. They're really fun. I think they're really fun. They get me to laugh at what I create. They get you to not take your art so seriously. And even though you might look at the finished piece and think, oh my god, like what the hell is that? It actually does improve your drawing skills. So see you next week. Bye!